Good morning, everyone. Today's video is going to be all about what we call CARES Act funding here at Southeast Community College. We have a friend with us, Mike Pegram, who is our Dean of Enrollment, or Student Enrollment. So Mike, I would like for you to kind of share your role in the CARES Act funding process. As you know, we received dollars as part of one of the stimulus packages. Right now, we've just received dollars to be distributed to students who have experienced expenses associated with the COVID crisis. It's really to help those students deal with those added expenses so they can continue their academic journey. We're also, we'll be receiving additional dollars for losses associated with the COVID crisis as it relates to our operations. But half of the total money has to be spent on, at least half has to be spent on the students. So you've really done a great job taking a lead role, working with a lot of your folks to figure out an allocation process and to really help students get those funds as fast as possible. So tell us about this.
Absolutely. So the CARES Act funds our guidance came through the Department of Education, which is how I got involved in it, because financial aid is one of the areas that I oversee. And the CARES Act itself was signed on March 27th. And then on April 21st, Department of Ed released guidance about who are considered eligible students. So since that point in time, what we've been doing is looking through our student population, identifying which students, according to our guidance, would be eligible for CARES Act funds. And then we've worked as quickly as possible to develop an application process to get information out about the CARES Act. And our goal is to distribute our portion of the funds to students as quickly as possible. Let's see, we have a task force that we formed that's been keeping up on kind of the guidance and the rules that are coming from the Department of Ed. It's been a really good group. We've got folks from accounts receivable, institutional research, our compliance person, and also financial aid. And I've kind of been helping coordinate that effort and sort of keep all the dots connected and keep everything kind of on track.
But Mike, I think one of the wonderful things that we're learning during this unusual time is that things go really well when we work together and we don't worry about, like you just made a really good point about, there are people on your task force that do not report to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure they're very appreciative of the fact that they don't report to you.
Yes, yeah. I
I'm
figured that was probably
I'm kidding about that, of course, Mike. But my point is, they're not worried about that, and their supervisors aren't worried about that. You're giving them you're helping put all this together, and everybody's working together. And I think we do a wonderful job at the college of not worrying about those lines, and sometimes in terms of all the supervisors keep into contact with one another and trust one another and support one another. That's super important in these times where there's no room for not being able to work together as a team. And I think there's so many great examples of that. My understanding, Mike, is that we released the application to students through our new webpage and earlier this week, and I think you had mentioned over 400 students have applied. I think that happened within 24, 48 hours. Is that right?
Yeah, the email, we sent the blast out to our eligible student population, the group that we believe are eligible for CARES Act funds, which is just under 4,600 students. That went out Wednesday evening, I want to say around 6:30 or 7 that night. Within about 4 or 5 minutes, we had our first applicant who had completed the process, which is great. So what that means is they had read the email, they went to our CARES Act website, they clicked on the CARES Act application, they got through the process pretty seamlessly. So that's been a real positive. As of end of day yesterday, we were right around 400 applicants. Suspect that, and that number is growing, so that's a good thing.
So what are the different expenses that can be that the student can request funds for as it relates to the COVID? Well, give us examples of what you're seeing from the students. What are some of the things that they're having to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. And the Department of Ed has defined a lot of those things for us. And so the keywords that they will say are expenses related to the disruption on campus services. So they're looking for, you went from face-to-face to now you're switching to this online learning modality and what unexpected expenses occurred as a result of that. So I can actually show you some of that information on our website.
That is great.
Yeah, do I have permission to share my screen here?
Oh,
Nope, my host has disabled my screen sharing.
okay.
You know, while you're doing that, I thought you were going to say that things work really great when I'm involved, but then you kind of pivoted and said things work really great when people across different departments work together. So I thought that was going to go one place, but
Um, let's see here, Mike. Um,
so under the share screen button, if you click on that, it should bring
yeah,
up the.
it's not allowing me to do that. Let's see here. Okay. Well, why don't you just tell us about it?
Sure. So some of the eligible expenses that, and first off, let me just say, you can find this information on our public website, southeast.edu/cares-act. So it is out there. We'll have a rolling banner ad on the front page of the website pretty soon, so you can get to that information that way. Some of the eligible expenses include housing, food, technology, healthcare, childcare, course materials, and then other related like academic expenses. Those are sort of the defined categories that the department has given us. And so students, when completing the application, are we're giving them opportunity to say, here's how much they have incurred in those particular areas. We did set a maximum award, at least for this initial wave, of about $1,000. And there's nothing that says that students couldn't at a later period of time, if we have funds available, that we couldn't still go back and see what else we can do to assist those folks.
Mike, do you know where it's at on the website?
I don't know if they have the direct link, but if you go to southeast.edu, cares-act, you should be able to pull it up if you're wanting to see the screen.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead. Let me go back to this. All right. I'll just share my screen. For some reason, there's not the usual button that on my screen that allows me to allow you to look at it. So can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, so that is it. And if you roll down this page here, you can see first off, there's information about students who are eligible. What are some of those eligible expenses?
So you can see it's housing, food, technology. So if you had a student who says, I'm having to take a course virtually, right? They would be able, if their device was a little bit out of date and not able to do the things they need to do, they can ask for dollars to pay for a new device.
Right. Yep. There's also information as you roll down the page. We do have some other resources through like that's information about priorities, how to sign up for fast refund. If students aren't eligible for CARES Act funds, but they're still in need of assistance, we included a link to the student application for emergency funds. Those are, for instance, foundation funds come through there. And then it's just a list of frequently asked questions. So what's Title IV aid? That's a question sometimes students have, or what does a student have to be eligible for aid? And so all the, additional information that they need to know about the CARES Act and also to be eligible is found there.
So it looks like the maximum is $1,000. Is that?
Yeah.
That's what it says. So a student can
Yeah.
get $1,000, but if they need additional dollars, they can also go to the emergency fund as well.
They could. Yeah.
I believe we've raised somewhere over $30,000.
I think right around that number.
For the emergency fund associated with COVID. Those are privately raised dollars through individuals, foundations, and
right.
Really been impressed by the generosity of folks in this unusual time. So what about this process? How important do you think this is for our students to be able to access these dollars?
I think it's extremely important. I think that even looking at the preliminary, that group of 400, just a real surface level scan of kind of the needs that they're reporting. It's evident for sure that there's quite a lot of disruption there.
Mike, as you know, the community colleges are we're an open access mission-based organization or college. And what that means is that to be open access, we have to be affordable. And so we are the most affordable option among other higher education entities. But what that also means in times like this, our students, many of them are in low income situations,
Yes.
and most of our students do work. And as you
Mhm.
know, a lot of those folks that were working, things have slowed down and many of them are not working. So their access to, even though we're very affordable, it's still expensive to many of our students in terms of, because they have to live, they have to have food, rent. So they're right, many of them are right on the edge of being able to cover those expenses. So I'm personally very pleased that the feds were able to act so quickly. And I'm also very pleased that we're able to raise dollars in other ways.
Yeah, I agree with all that. And I think that the need is definitely there. And we've seen that in the applications that are coming in and just, what we're hearing from them, how they've navigated through this experience for sure.
So Mike, as we wrap this video up, anything else you want to talk about? I think you and your team, the task force that you described, have been tremendous in putting this all together. And, I think you and I've talked about this before, but you and your staff and the other people involved already had full responsibilities, and now you have to take on these additional responsibilities. And it's been great. No one's been complaining. They, if anything, have just been excited that they get to help put together something that's going to help the students. Any other final thoughts before we wrap this video up?
I appreciate the efforts that everybody involved in the team, and the college is extremely supportive of that. And what I really appreciate about this is everybody is focused on what we can do to help the students, and I think that speaks a lot about this organization and the people that we employ here. We all know what the goal is here, and is to provide help for students as quickly as possible, and to do it in the most equitable and fair way that we can. And so we're focused a lot on that, and I appreciate the fact that I know that there's a lot of effort going into this, but nobody's complaining. It's just, we know it's important and we want to do it for all the right reasons, and that feels really good.
Great, Mike. Well, thanks for taking a little time this morning with us.
Thank you, Paul.
Had some great insight on the CARES Act funding. Everybody have a good morning and take care.
Farewell.